You're listening or watching the 904wed.com Real Wedding Planning Podcast. And joining me, just like always, are my two favorite hosts and guests. That, of course, is Ann LaFiles at the very top, premier bride of Northeast Florida extraordinaire, magazine, expo, you name it. If you are looking for a wedding vendor or have any wedding question, you go to Ann for the best advice. And right below her is a very real bride, Amber Flowers, whose wedding is coming up in the very, very near future, April of 2021. This is episode 10 or 11 now. If this is your first episode, you need to rewind and start over at the beginning because you are missing plenty of great content. Catch on up because right now, Amber just got back from her delayed engagement party in Ohio, where she met some of her fiance's family for the first time. We're going to learn all about how that went down, tips, things she might want to share with other brides. Amber, how was your trip?
Oh, my trip was amazing. I have to say, I was scared of Ohio. I've never been out to the Midwest, and so this is my first, and I'm meeting this family for the first time. So I was a bit nervous, and also asking the sisters to be a part of the wedding. So it was very special, and I can't wait to get into all the fun details of it and everything that I kind of experienced of the Midwest. Now, I call the Midwest. I've heard others. I know Anne has mentioned that it's not too much of the Midwest, but I experienced a lot of corn fields and a lot of soybeans.
Well, let's get into it, right? First off, for people who may have forgotten, because we've been talking about this trip, I feel like for several episodes, it got delayed. It was supposed to happen back in September or August, right?
No, July was the first rumor. Yeah, wow. It was actually supposed to be July. So we went from summer to now we went to a great fall setting.
Great weather.
Let me tell you, Ohio loves the fall.
That is the time to be up there.
That's true.
For sure. So let's talk engagement party, right? How did this get planned? Who organized it? How involved were you?
So his parents and his family out there, his aunt, his uncle, and the most important, his grandfather. So they actually planned everything. I offered, and his sisters, of course, actually put everything together. So you had the minds, and then they actually did all the physical work and put everything together. So it had nothing to do. I didn't have anything to do with it besides it was about us.
Yeah. That's really happy.
But that's right. You got to truly be a guest, right, at this and meet this family. And what was it like meeting the family?
Okay, so right when we get there, we head over, we fly in, and we flew into Columbus, and then we traveled about an hour away to Urbana. And we checked into the hotel, which the hotel was just built in early July. So, it was brand new. And they were saying, oh, you're staying at such a nice hotel, lucky you. It literally was the only hotel. Other ones were like motels and inns. Now, when you think of inn and suites in Jacksonville, okay, well, it's cool. I've seen some good ones, and especially in St. Augustine. Ohio is way different. Well, Urbana is way different. So, and even they were saying you don't want to stay there because it's usually people coming in and out with farming and stuff like that. It's not something that you don't have a lot of weddings there, stuff like that, and a lot of guests stay there. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. So we get there, check in, hotel's great, fantastic. And we drive over to, and I'm talking, it's such a beautiful drive. It's hills, and then you have just farmland forever. Now, I have clients that are in Immokalee, Florida. I know what farmland is, but not like this. You have the sun that hits the top of the cornfields, so it has this yellow, it just had yellow waves everywhere. And I kept playing, they were making fun of me, I kept playing the, what's the Sting song? There's a Sting song that talks about the fields of yellow or in the fields of barley or whatever. So we get to the land. I call it the land because literally it was 1,100 acres.
Wow.
1,100 acres. That's some land.
That's
some land that I have. Yeah, and his grandfather, so I told in the beginning of the episodes, he was a farmer, so he ran tractors and combines. So they redid his tractor, which I posted about. If you're listening right now and following the Instagram story, posted a tractor, and I tagged Chandler Oaks because the tractor that's in front of there was one of the very first tractors that his grandfather actually. So when we opened up the barn, there's this red tractor, and it's actually identical. I could say maybe not the year, maybe it's off a year or two, but very old tractor in the front, and they had the same one right there.
Did you know that, or was that coincidence?
Okay, so I knew that they were redoing his original John Deere tractor. So, but that's not a John Deere tractor. I think it's called a International or something. I know I'm going to be quoted off on this one, but it's the red tractor.
The red
tractor.
It's the red tractor. So I did not know about that specific tractor. So when they opened up the barn, and I mean, I got goosebumps because when you walk into the center of a barn that was used for, I mean, generations of third generation farmers. I mean, the smell of it is just like, I fell in love with it. It's like dust, but then you smell like the wheat and the corn. And it just, I don't know, it brings back this feling. Anyway.
Were you dressed for the occasion? I got to ask.
Oh, honey, I went specific and got my overalls. I got like these hoodie jackets. I even tried to find John Deere stuff, but thank God I didn't go that far because it would have been way obvious. Like that city girl is trying way too hard. So, but I mean, I curled my hair every day and my lashes, and I guess that was something that his cousin Ben, whom I just adore Ben, and he's the youngest one that runs the farms, but he was like kind of makes fun of girls that wear like makeup and stuff. But anyway, so I didn't expect the tractor. And when I did see it, I got super emotional. I was just like, oh my gosh. And it's so special because his 93-year-old grandfather is just so sharp and remembers so many things. And he's there telling stories that all of these, I know they're all gathering for us, but the fact that they can hear these stories and maybe gatherings like this brought back memories for him. Like that's what was truly special. And it was really important that I got to share those moments with his grandfather because they just lost, he just lost his wife and their grandmother. And the funny thing is, they're like, you're going to get in with the family, when he invites you to the closet. And I'm like, what?
Whoa, this is really not a good thing.
Right. I'm like, So he did invite me to pick out like a jacket or a shirt from they don't get rid of their stuff from their grandmother. So they pass it down.
Aww.
So he invited me in to get it, and I did. I got one of her jackets, and I just was like, this can't get any sweeter. This moment is just so incredible.
That is an Amber Flowers 101 move right there. I got to hand it to him. Well done. So, when I think of Ohio, right, I think of Donato's Pizza and Tommy's Pizza. That's the Columbus, Ohio I know. I know you love pizza. Was pizza incorporated somehow or another here?
So the funny thing is, yes, it was, but not planned. So we get there, like I said, the first day, and we go over to his aunts and uncle's house, Aunt Kim and Uncle Roger and their son Ben. And all the family lives on the land. So they're like, oh, do you want sloppy joes or do you want pizza? So Chris and I, of course, I'm thinking like pizza. But I know Chris loves sloppy joes. So I'm like, okay, well, let's just rock, paper, scissors it. Best out of 3. You got sloppy joes, I have pizza. So best out of 3, he wins. And then his sister says, well, I really want pizza. I'm like, oh, well, pizza it is. Because, sister's definitely going to get their way at this point. You know that. So, but also I want a pizza. And I did say, I'm like, I really want to try this Urbana pizza. So there's only one pizza place. And it's not what you named. So at all. I think it's called Sparky's or Sharky's.
Right. Sometimes the best pizza places are the little hole in the walls that don't exist anywhere else, right?
Well, this is really embarrassing. So the pizza gets there, and his grandfather, oh gosh, his grandfather orders pizza. Like we get it to pick up. So this is known that his grandfather orders his pizza this way, but he orders pizza with no cheese.
That's no longer pizza.
Well, it's 93 years old. You pretty much can order whatever you want.
Wait, what comes on the pizza if you don't get cheese?
Pepperoni.
So bread,
sauce, pepperoni.
What keeps it all together? Like it just sounds like one.
Hopes and wishes, and hopefully there's nothing that keeps it together. So it gets there, right? All right, and then his cousin Ben, orders like this so they're all round pizzas. But do you remember in college, like you have the round pizza of Totino's, but you cut it into squares?
Yeah.
You know, not like, more to merrier. So that's how the pizzas show up. There's a cheese pizza, pepperoni pizza, obviously one small one with no cheese, pepperoni, and then a spicy meatball one. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I get a ton of different slices or squares, put it on the plate, and they serve it there with potato chips. Cool. I'm there. There's a thing of ranch on the table. Totally there. Well, I finished the pizza, and it was good, right? And then his mom asked me, so what do you rate it? So here's the thing. I have never rated it. You can't ask somebody like me that, because the highest I think I ever scored a pizza was probably an 8 to an 8.5.
I mean, for those of you who don't know Amber, she is a bit of a pizza aficionado. You wouldn't believe it, but you are.
Thank you. I'm honored.
But I'm confused. If you've never scored a pizza at 10, then you don't have a top shelf. It doesn't exist. You haven't had it yet.
I have not had it, but she said 1 to 10. What do you rate this pizza?
So the thoughts in your head are greater than what you've ever put in your mouth, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I just wonder what would take a pizza from an 8 to a 10? What is missing 2 points here?
Yeah.
You know what? I think leveling it in the flop. Like if it, it tastes good, the dough's good, with the outside crunch is perfect, but when you have the inside that's just kind of gooey, you've picked up a slice like that, and it's like, the cheese and sauce are perfection, but just if that was a little tougher, and then it'd be a 10. So that's what makes it 10. However, she asked me to rate it, and this is pressure because now I'm meeting the family for the first time. It's the only place in Urbana, and I know my pizza.
Hold on, before you answer that, had you already been to the closet?
No.
So you had not been accepted officially yet?
Correct.
Okay. All right, carry on.
So I said, without explaining myself, that how much I love pizza and I've never rated something, 8.5, whatever I said earlier. I said, it's like a 6. I thought that was a great score. And she was like, oh, well, it's not what it really is. And she started saying, like, his aunt, and I'm like,
oh, Amber, you messed up. You have to grade that on a curve up there with family around.
Yeah, you got to grade on a curve.
You gave them a free pizza reality check.
She graded on a curve.
Oh,
she
my
already
gosh.
gave it higher points than what she was originally going to.
Stop it. Oh man, it was one of those things where I was like, oh my God. And when I said it to Chris later on, I was like, I gave it a 6. Like, and he calls me Floors, you guys know that, but he's like, Floors, a 6 you could have just said maybe an 8. And I'm like, no, I couldn't have, that wouldn't be right. And then I was like, oh my God, I've totally offended her. I cannot believe this.
The place probably won't make it past the end of this year.
Yeah, no.
Stop it. No. So wait, I had some when we moved back to the house the next day, I did make it a point to have, open up the Ziploc bag from the refrigerator. And she walks through and I'm like, oh, I just needed a bite of this pizza.
She's going to be watching this.
Oh, of course. I know.
Okay.
I was actually talking about it there. But I hope they are watching this, because you know what? I didn't get a chance to explain myself about how I can rate pizza. So, here's a piece of my life, okay? Here's a piece of my life.
I knew there'd be a pun in there somewhere. All righty.
She spent a lot of time in Italy, so we have to let her grade on a curve in the United States, because let's face it, Italian pizza's totally different. So
it is. For overall.
We could spend a whole episode talking about pizza and Pizza and all the other pizza places in Jacksonville. But we've got to carry on about this rehearsal party that you were at, right? What are some of the things that you took away from it that you were surprised by, things that you want to share with other brides that you want to make sure other brides think about or gently remind, right, whoever their rehearsal party planner is?
I do have to say, when you are dealing with 2 different engagement parties, sometimes brides just have one, and a lot of times there are 2 different ones. Two separate ones. And my mom couldn't make it, and my parents couldn't make it out to this one. But the advice that I would give, what is really special, is pay attention to detail out there. You know, when you're visiting for the first time, I'm noticing, get the names right, you know, make sure you give a higher score on pizza. But besides that, you know, his mom and I had a very special moment where, you know, the Buckeyes. If you ever had a Buckeye, if you haven't been to Ohio and had a Buckeye, you really never been to Ohio. So we made homemade Buckeyes, just her and I. And that was something super special. And I know that his mom knows how much I kind of like spending that time in the kitchen. I feel like around the kitchen. So that's something I paid a lot of attention to. And I then, after we were done, you know, I repeated the recipe right back to her, just right off the top. And she goes, oh, but you know, that recipe is now going on the table every time they visit for every holiday. So it means a lot. So brides, grooms, pay attention to detail. Like, you know, the Sloppy Joe recipe that they made the next day. I'm like, oh my gosh, this has to be like, it tastes, I've only had like the man-witch stuff. And I was like, this has to be the man-witch stuff because it's like the best stuff ever. I didn't say that out loud.
She's a pizza snob and a Sloppy Joe slob.
Yeah, and eat meat out of a can. Like, I don't understand this. Like,
I don't get it at all.
Meat out of a can.
And I never thought I would hear Buckeyes come out of Amber's mouth. I'm just waiting for say go Buckeyes. But will Buckeyes Will Buckeyes be at your actual wedding? Are you going to incorporate that dessert somehow and reference Ohio?
So I do have. His bloodline goes back to he's Greek, so I'm not going to incorporate Buckeyes. I don't think so, because the dessert station that we're doing, I am going to make his grandmother's sugar sweets. So they made them at the engagement party. They had this dessert table, and I lost it, you guys. I lost it. I cried, and I told you I'm not a very emotional person. I can hold back, and okay, here's another thing. Ladies, if you're about to cry and you don't want to mess up your makeup, this is my thing. I say stop sign, and I think of a stop sign and I trace like an octagon, and all of a sudden the tears go away. But also you don't remember what they were saying. So, but if you don't want to cry, just do that. Anyway.
Just another tip. I should have a little sound effect. Ding! Every time Amber gives a beauty tip.
So I don't want to overwhelm you with all this stuff. However, so the little sugar sweet things, those are going to be there that his grandmother made. Yes. Also, with that being said, they did this dessert table and they had this cake made. But the dessert table, I turned around and gosh, his mom was so sweet how she decorated everything. You could tell how much, I tell you, little things mean so much to me, family. So she decorated this table, and I turned around, and it's like, you're forever with us. We're so happy in our memory. And there's a big of his, grandmother and my grandmother and pictures of us. Aww. And I turned around, and I said, I can't look at this right now. And my chin starts going. I was like, it's so sweet, but I can't look at it right now. Because it's that.
I'm getting teary-eyed.
Yeah. But it gets even better. So we go around the entire room. So everybody that was there, which was only about 15 to 20 people. So she hung on 8x10s all around wedding pictures. So they've been wet. The pictures that, people, his aunts and stuff that for 50 years married, for 30 years, they're still married. I'm saying all the way down. My parents' pictures, and it was just like the warmth in that was, you could feel the emotions around there. It
really
was,
nice
it was
touch.
That's
beautiful.
A beautiful idea.
I love it.
It was so special. So it was hard to hold back the tears, but when we got up to say we wanted to give a speech and say thank you, and usually I let Chris take care of that. He's really good at it, but he messed up. He's like, and we're married, and we're going to be getting married, and hopefully
we're married?
Wait, what?
So he was like, we're married. I mean, we're getting married, and hopefully it's like going to be, only one time. And I was like,
oh my gosh. Chris.
I was like, well, I really did step in front. I was like, he usually takes care of all this. Great. And he does it really well, but okay, I have to step in on this one. So I really did have to step in. And I was like, I felt the lump in my throat. Like, what did I just do?
What was everyone's face at that point? Like, did they hear it, or were they just kind of like following the vibe?
No, they did. And his father is so funny. And his father, you could see him like laughing. His shoulders are going this, and he's just laughing. So that is, we're standing in front, but in my peripheral, I could still see the dessert table. So I get up and I still have to steal the show from him because he just ruined that part. So, and I go into thanking and specific people, and I get this, and I said, this means so much because of what I feel here is just simple happiness, the simplicity of life here, where, the routine is so simple and it's so happy. There's one place for this. There's one place for that. You're waving at the neighbors. And I was like, I recently, lost my grandmother, and I just went and I gave, so you don't know how special these memories are, how special this is to just hear everybody's story and laugh, because no matter what fades, when we get to go to our next life or whatever we choose, these memories are what every single person here still on earth, remember. And it was just that moment of where, I started crying, and his mom gets up and says, well, and she hands this red box over, and it had a little saying on there, and it was his grandmother's handkerchief that was going to be passed down to the first person that was getting married, and she couldn't give it because she wasn't present, and so that was handed to us. Aww. And I was like, oh, and it was emotional.
Wow, that is an absolutely touching story, and way to step in, right, and fix that speech, boy. You should be worried come wedding day. You should be real worried.
No, and it's funny because he was great at it, and I don't know what. You know what he said? I don't know what happened. It just, you say things and you hear them, and then it just rolls off the tongue like, what? I'm like, hey, I've definitely done it, so it's fine. But I've got to step in.
Just wipe some of those tears
away. At least he wasn't, right?
Well, speaking of rehearsal parties, not to be confusing them with rehearsal dinners, two very different things. I guess since there is no norm, you might be able to combine them, but a rehearsal party is supposed to happen early on. I'm sorry, an engagement party. A rehearsal dinner, right, is supposed to be happening right before. And let's talk about rehearsal dinners, right? All part of this big theme, and we can come back and talk more about your engagement party there in a little bit. But and when it comes to rehearsal dinners, right, and bringing family together before the wedding, where do you suggest people start on that?
Well, if you want to follow tradition, and I know that we say, there are no traditions left in weddings anymore, but traditionally the groom's parents will pay for the rehearsal dinner. That's usually what the customary thing is, but like I said, there's no rules in weddings anymore, but if they do offer it, that's wonderful. And typically the people who go to the rehearsal dinner are the ones who are in the wedding and anybody who's traveled from out of state. You usually want to invite them too. It's just kind of the etiquette with rehearsal dinners. So groom's parents pay etiquette-wise, and then you invite anyone who's involved in the wedding. So you've done the walkthrough for the ceremony, then you go to the rehearsal dinner, and anybody who's out of town should come to the rehearsal dinner.
All right, Amber, we got to ask.
Proper etiquette.
That's proper etiquette. Amber, how are you twisting this around? What are your plans when it comes to your rehearsal dinner at this point?
You know what? We actually just kind of started. We had a place picked out. And I mean, Anne's absolutely right. As far as the parents came forward and wanted to take care of that. Now, when it comes to the bar, or where you decide to, we decided, and I think I did I mention this, where I was having it? Do you know?
Sometimes I can't keep track of what's a secret right now and what's not. So I like it when you tell us.
So it's in downtown St. Augustine. It's kind of where we had one of our dates, but in Tampa. So
we know where that is.
Ding, ding, ding. Where's it at?
Columbia.
Yeah. So we are gonna have it there, and then the guests that fly in, and I'm also trying to create that right now and get all the information of the flight tracks. But anyway, yes. But what's really cool about Columbia is that they also offer, and I know other places do, but their prices are great. You have to, I think, have a minimum of 35, I think, in order to book there, of 35 guests. And then also their bar is great because we're not doing a per person, we're not doing an open bar, but we're going to do a bar tab. So, because a lot of his family does not drink at all. So we figured, here's a bar tab, and we don't want people to get smashed right before the big party, the main event. So, we're going to go with that. I think it's great.
You could even do pictures of sangria because that's what they're
doing.
For.
They do a great thing.
So you don't even have
drink.
to. It is, and sometimes you can even take on like the whole. One of the ways that you save money during a wedding is to have signature cocktails and just maybe have beer or wine. But you could do that for the rehearsal dinner too. You could just do. Here's a couple pictures of sangria, and when it's out, it's out. You know what I mean? And then people can go and do whatever they like to drink at the bar and do a cash tab. I mean, because you do want to be mindful. I mean, you don't want to, throw two really wild, crazy parties back to back.
And they have 3 different tiers too. So their tiers are great. And a lot of places do that. Or, you can do, we were going back and forth with a backyard barbecue place. That was amazing. So how do you deal with budget? You make sure the parents approve, and if their grooms are doing so, the groom's parents are doing so. Or a lot of times they go together. The bride's parents and the groom's parents throw it together.
Or the couples can kick in too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like if they have a vision and they want something a certain way, and they want to invite people that the groom's parents don't want to invite, they can always, front the other part of the money.
Absolutely.
So, I was at a wedding the other day, and someone asked, how is it really important that we rehearse before the rehearsal dinner anyway? Are people rehearsing their wedding walkthroughs? And for those brides that are listening that don't understand all that goes into it, please, Anne, share some wedding wisdom. Why is this rehearsal so important to get right? The person really said, they're just walking down the aisle.
Oh my God. Anne, please. Go, girl. Go ahead.
Preach.
Baby.
Preach.
Sweet baby Jesus. So you're going to be nervous. It's like the biggest day of your life. And cameras are on, and video cameras are on, and everything's going to be captured. And there's, however many guests that you have, all eyes are going to be on each individual person that walks down that aisle. And it's not just the bride. So you want your people to know where they're going to go. And, the groomsmen could be drinking, the bridesmaids could be drinking. They need some direction. You know what I mean? And especially if you don't have a wedding planner to tell them what to do. If you don't have someone directing traffic on that day, you better have a great rehearsal to go over things, because there's questions and you want things to go smoothly and seamlessly. You don't want people to be asking questions in the middle of it or have dumbfounded looks on their faces in the photos.
Right.
So do the rehearsal. I mean, you're right. It's not rocket science to walk down, but you do have to follow some cues. You know what I mean? There is some timing involved in having a ceremony.
There you have it. Well, speaking of timing.
Isn't that for you? Wait, isn't that for you too, Wes? Like, think about it. If you have any entertainment, timing. Like, if you left it all up to the question mark, you're going to have people, like, skipping or, like, and then the bride walks out. Like, what?
I've never had anyone skip down the aisle, although I won't rule out that may not happen in the future. But, from a DJ's perspective, we typically do not go to rehearsal. I can think of a handful of times where I've been invited because it's been a special situation where we needed to test out some gear. There was a really unique circumstance. But generally, we don't get the information until, or we have the information of what's going to be played and sort of a rundown. But we're doing it live. We've done it enough. Like, like we kind of know what to expect.
Right.
We work with the coordinator. But I'll tell you, what I see is when there's not a coordinator, a planner, or sometimes a team, if it's a really long walk, it's kind of hard to cue the bride. You're like waving the party down, right? It's time to start walking. So you do have to think about the timing, right? Of how long the walk is. Is the song going to cover it? I'm noticing a lot of brides want to come out at a specific part of the song, right? And there is no right or wrong anymore, but I had a bride who just recently, she wanted her appearance when she turned the corner to be at 1 minute and 40 seconds into the song. Anne's eyes. So yes, that was 1 minute and 40 seconds of dead silence of the guests just sitting there wondering, is she going to show up, right? What was going on? But it did flow with the song. The lyrics started that she wanted right at that 140, and it was grand and it was awesome, and it worked out. It made sense at that point, but no one really knew what to do except the bridal party knew that it was going to happen, right? So no one was getting nervous, but that's what people are doing now. They want a choreographed entrance, and you better have that timing down perfect or it's not going to work.
Yeah, I agree. And then you don't know what side of this. People get nervous.
They do. And it is a lot. And people do, because there's all these people staring at you. And you're walking in heels and uncomfortable dresses. And, all eyes are looking at you. And then also,
when you've seen this, and when they finally get up and there's like 8 on one side and 8 on the other, and the bride, they don't realize that how much room they need to leave in between. And then all of a sudden their shoulders aren't right. And I'm telling you, you're paying money for this stuff. So like if you're paying money for a photographer and all these things, you'll see it in pictures, and it drives me crazy.
Who can't fix it? They can't fix it once they stand there.
No, they cannot fix that.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's the pictures, like if you're not standing, and I mean, even, good wedding planners will even mark the locations with little pieces of tape or something. So, there's little markers that they can use so the girls know where to stand, because it makes a world of difference on the photos. And,
absolutely.
You've got one shot, and you're paying thousands of dollars for photography. So it is not just walking down the aisle.
There you go, folks. Great advice and knowledge from Anne right there. All right. So speaking of timing and planning, at the end of your rehearsal dinner, at the end of your rehearsal, hopefully your guests are having a great time. Amber, you've put them right in the heart of Party 101 in St. Augustine, assuming that everything is back open. You're not going to have a curfew. They're going to be out partying that night. Are you at all worried about that in downtown St. Augustine with all the different pubs and bars to go to?
Well, that's why I'm marrying younger. They can really hang, with the frat boys. I'm just kidding. Mama Bear's going to be in bed.
You got a curfew that night. You're going to bed early.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to bed early. I know that he was in his best man. He was the best man in his best man this time's wedding, if that makes sense. And they were out partying, and his best man was up to like 4 a.m, knocking on his father's door, having a conversation. So that will not happen. But
you won't know about it, Amber. You'll think so.
Oh, I will, because I'm not telling you guys, but there is going to be a very big surprise coming up in the morning time. So tune in for that.
Wow. I can't wait to hear more about that.
And I literally can't say anything until you guys get the video. That's the crazy part. I cannot leak this whatsoever.
So you're going to have to wait. That's coming up. That's a reason to continue listening. Maybe Amber will let you in on a little more of that secret by accident. Who knows, right? What is going to come up? Well, listen, we are slowly running out of time on today's podcast. We have so much more to talk about. So all the more reason to tune into the next one. Subscribe to this podcast and watch all of them. But what is coming up right now next for you? I know you're working on a website. What does that entail? Are there some new trends you're seeing in websites nowadays? And can you book, flight, hotel, do it all in a single site?
No, you cannot do that. But that's what is up. What's up next is the website. Getting down to, he has friends and family traveling Ohio, Indianapolis, Atlanta. So I'm doing all the research and it's really hard because it's still in April, so they want to wait. But all of the different things. So on the save the dates, I did put the website. marlatafsomething.com, and And so when they get to save the dates, they click on that. It gives them all the hotel information, different kind of transportation when it comes to rent a car if they have to do so. Some are flying into Orlando and Sanford area and then driving up. So there's a load of information for the next episode.
Are you booking a block of rooms anywhere? Booking an Airbnb for family? Like, how are you trying to make this work? Or are you really saying, hey, guests, it's up to you to figure that out?
No, we're actually doing excursions too. So for the guests that are coming from out of town, they have these options during the daytime to go on different excursions, and we have a company that's taking care of that. Airbnbs, of course, but no, I'm not giving it to the guests. I want the guests to have a really good time. Again, there's going to be older, guests that are not going to be into the downtown, the busyness and the loud. They do not want that, and they've made that a very big point. So again, pay attention to details when you're out in a different, they don't want that. They don't like that. So I'm taking them in, and they're going to be at World Golf and over in that area where it is quiet and it's not the craziness of downtown, but letting them know the transportation back and forth, Uber, because we all know parking is not easy in St. Augustine. So like I said, with the website, I'm paying attention to all the details. So all the guests do feel as much so at home and comfortable as I would want to feel too.
What a great bride. You're doing a great job playing host here, especially when you start talking about excursions. This is starting to sound more like a cruise, like a 3-day, right? 4-day, 3-night cruise, whatever you want to call it. Good for you. That sounds like it's going to be a blast. Can't wait to hear from you how this site goes. We'll be talking about that and plenty of other things on our next podcast. Cannot wait for that. So best wishes to you, Amber, on your upcoming week of wedding planning before we check in again. And you are out of wedding expo mode for a little bit. I'm sure you're just working on next year's, right? But you get to continue to relax and enjoy here for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I get to bother her now.
My work is never done. We're planning 2021 already, So I'm booking 2021, and we're getting ready for the magazine, and we're going to be doing a photo shoot coming up. So all kinds of fun stuff.
Well, check out the links, everyone. Learn more about Premier Bride of Northeast Florida. Learn more about what Amber is doing with her wedding and all of her tips, suggestions, hints, advice, you name it. Subscribe to this podcast. We will be back on our next episode. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening to the 904wed.com podcast, Amber, and have a great rest of your week. We'll see you guys in 7 days.